For the first time, I was flying by jet propulsion. No engine vibrations, no torque, and no lashing sound of the propeller. Accompanied by a whistling sound, my jet shot through the air. Later, when asked what it felt like, I said, it felt as though angels were pushing.
The Messerschmitt Me-262, nicknamed Swallow, was the world's first mass-produced jet fighter. Design work began in spring 1939, several months before the outbreak of World War II. But there were problems with the airplane's turbojet engines until mid-1944 before the first Me-262s became operational. The jet had a top speed of 560 miles per hour, more than 100 miles per hour faster than the best Allied fighter planes, but its engines were never truly dependable. As an interceptor, the Me-262 was less maneuverable than a P-51 Mustang or P-38 Lightning. But the jet's speed advantage allowed it to make hit-and-run attacks on Allied bombers and outrun the escorting fighters. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was the most advanced fighter aircraft of World War II. Germany built 3,300 Me-262s, but only about 300 ever saw combat. Many were destroyed on the ground by U.S. Army Air Forces fighters and bombers, others grounded by lack of fuel, pilots, and spare parts. And as Germany's transportation networks were destroyed, new Me-262s sat idle in the factory. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was a potentially devastating weapon, but it was too late and too few to save the Third Reich. In the words of Adolf Galland,
if we would have had the 262 at our disposal, even with all the delays, if we could have had in 44, let's say 300 operational, that day we could have stopped the American daytime bombing offensive. That's for sure.
Joseph Anthony Peterburs was a 20-year-old P-51 pilot with the 20th Fighter Group, 55th Fighter Squadron, operating in Europe. On April 10, 1945, Peterburs was flying an escort mission for B-17 bombers, target Germany. An Me-262 piloted by German ace Walter Schuck shot down two B-17s. Peterburs fired his guns at Schuck's jet and damaged it. The Me-262 disappeared into a cloud bank. Peterburs dropped below the clouds and spotted a German airfield. He made several strafing passes, destroying German airplanes on the ground. When anti-aircraft fire hit Peterburs' plane, he turned his damaged B-51 toward Allied lines. But before he could reach safety, the German Focke-Wulf 190 caught up with him. With his B-51 burning, Peterburs bailed out at low altitude and was captured. But he and several others escaped from their POW camp and joined up with advanced Russian forces. After he took part in a few skirmishes between the Russians and Germans, the Russians turned him over to the Americans. Tired of the infantry, Peterburs caught a ride on a C-47 headed for Paris. He arrived in New York on June 1. In Korea, Peterburs flew 76 combat missions in the P-51. He was a staff operations officer in Vietnam and commanded tactical air control units in Europe during the Cold War. "60 years after his encounter with an Me-262 over Germany, Peterburs met Walter Schuck, the former Me-262 pilot. The two men became best friends. Schuck had also been forced to bail out that day with injuries that took him out of the war. And Schuck said that by shooting him down, Peterburs saved his life, a life he fully expected to lose flying for the lost cause of the Third Reich.
Up and at 'em. Come on.
Let's go.
All right, I'll lead you out. Yeah, be careful over here in the grass. Thanks, Alan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for that warm welcome. I'm Ed McElhenney. I'll be doing the moderating. I'll be steering the ship, so to speak. But as you can tell, our guest of honor here is at my immediate left. I don't think he needs introduction, but that is Colonel Retired Joe Peterburs. And he said it was what, 80? He was 20 years when we shot down that airplane right there, and this is now 80 years later. Okay. So here's Joe Peterburs. He will turn 101 this fall. So then we just got a couple other guys up here. We got Keegan from a Middle America Museum, and the pilot. It even says on a shirt. I like that. It says pilot. He's the guy we need to thank for bringing that Me-262 in there. That's Mike Spalding. So, Mike, thank you very much. There's another Mike out here. Where's the other Mike? Mike out of my career, right there. That's another guy we're going to give just a few seconds to, because, hey, the name of the game today is to listen to Joe and his stories. The airplane, this is the first time this airplane has ever been here to Oshkosh. It had a little bit of a problem a couple days ago, just a small part from what I understand, but Mike said, hey, we're going to get it here, and with the help of their maintenance guys, they did. Keegan, thank you very much also. But with that, I'm just going to say, okay, where do we start with a gentleman like this? He spent 36 years total in the Air Force, Army Air Corps. If you look at his hat, he had an interesting story. He said some girl came up to him, just a couple of years ago, was it? Yeah. And hugged him, and he's kind of going, who are you? What are you? And she said, I have this hat, but you're the only guy who can wear it. And if you look at the hat, it says World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veteran. So yeah, one of a kind right here, one of a kind. And I'll say this right now. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask veterans, any veteran out there, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, please stand up. I want to recognize you and say thank you for your service. All right, the way I'm going to progress here, I think, is we're going to get some stories from Joe. Keegan is kind of our expert, okay? So if we've got some expert kind of questions, he's the guy I'm going to talk to. And at the very end, I'm going to go, okay, with about 10 minutes to spare, I'm going to take Mike and we're going to walk around this airplane and we're do a quick walk around, talk about the airplane, some specifics, maybe some performance characteristics, and then we'll open up the questions for y'all. So I got to say, first of all, from an airplane standpoint, yeah, you see this one here, and then the other one. I'm trying to look. Where's the in your colors? He's got this one in his colors from World War II. And Joe, I'll first ask. You know, Connie made a mistake. She said that this was named after his wife, and correct me. Okay, so
No,
set the story straight.
It was named after my fiance, Josephine. We got engaged a couple of days before I left for overseas. She kept every letter I wrote to her.
Okay, and then the follow on to that is what was it? You said you had to get your mother's permission?
Yeah, well, after I finished my tour and got home and was put on leave, and we're busy getting all the paperwork together to get married, and in the process we found out I had to get my mom's permission to get married because I hadn't turned 21 yet.
Anyway, his airplane is Josephine, and that was stenciled on there, I think, last night in your honor.
Yeah.
So we've got that one in his Korean P-51 also. But with that, let's go get to the meat of the mission. Okay, the day that you were out there and you shot that down. Okay, and really, I guess that was your first encounter with Walter also at that
Absolutely.
point. Didn't know it at the time, but you later found that out. But tell me how that transpired, if you will. You know, we know that the ME-262 had been designed to be basically a high-speed interceptor. Go in there and shoot down the B-17s and get out of Dodge. Okay, but now's where you come in. How did it happen?
Well, we were escorting some 450 B-17s to Oranienburg, just north of Berlin. And just as the bombers were over the target, we got hit by a swarm of ME-262s. I was flying high cover about 5,000 feet above the bombers, and I saw this 262 blow up a 17, and I rolled over immediately and started down after him with the throttles wide open. And he was pulling into another B-17 just as I pulled into his 6 o'clock position and started firing. And I got some hits in his left engine, and he started burning. He made him roll over to the right and started down to the deck. And I was chasing him, and I was starting to lose my speed the speed advantage I did have. Of course, he started speeding it up. So anyway, at about 3,000 feet, he disappeared into the clouds. So I left him. I wasn't going to follow him into the clouds. And so he was burning when he went in. So I just let it go, and I looked over, and I saw a airfield just loaded with German aircraft. And it looked like a real good opportunity to destroy some of the enemy. So I started straightening, and I made many too many passes and destroyed 5 aircraft on the ground, set a hangar on fire, and on my last pass on a FW-200, a Condor, big 4-engine aircraft. As I was coming in, I felt a thud, and I blew the Condor, and then I was pulling out, and I felt another thud, and I got oil over my windscreen, and I knew I was hit bad, so I made it up to 10,000 feet. Let me go continue.
Yeah. He said he made it to 10,000 feet. Then he had a decision to make. You know, he said, "Hey, the Russian front was this way. The Allies, if you were that way. And so from there, you had to say, am I going to be able to make it back to the good guys over here, or am I going to have to go to the Russians? So which way did you go?"
Yeah, I went west. I decided to go west. It was about 80 miles to Magdeburg, where the Allied forces were fighting, and I thought I could make it. But as I was got to about 20, 30 miles away from Magdeburg, I was down to 1,000 feet, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. So I decided I was going to bail out. So I unhook everything and get ready to bail out. And I look over to my 3 o'clock position, and there's an FW 190 coming at me. I'm burning on the right side of the aircraft. So just as he's coming in, and I pull the aircraft over to the right, get on the head on, and he fires his rockets, and he passes me, and he misses, fortunately, and he just keeps going, not burning, so he figures I'm done for anyway. So by this time I'm down to 500 feet, and I said I'm too low to bail out. I'm going to have to belly this in, and I go. Then I remember I had a hook that I can't get hooked up again, and so I can't belly it in. So I had to go over the side. So about 400 feet, I went over the side and let go at about 300 feet, and I was supposed to go out of the right side because the torque will throw you away from the aircraft. You go out the left side, it'll throw you into the aircraft. Well, it threw me into the aircraft. I hit my right knee on the horizontal stabilizer, pulled the ripcord, the chute opened, and I hit the ground hard. And it was immediately captured. And
all right, hold on.
Okay,
We're going to stop. There's more to follow there, but let's go back to the initial intercept and stuff like that. I want to talk a little bit about, had you been pre-briefed? I mean, had you fought ME-262s before, and what were you told? How were you going to shoot them down?
well, we were briefed as soon as I got there, because we had encountered already 262s when I arrived in November of '44. And the briefing was that they were 100 miles an hour faster than we were. They wouldn't be able to dogfight with you, and they don't dogfight with you. So you have to get them in their most vulnerable stages of flight. And the most vulnerable is while they're taking them off and landing. And many of the kills, if not most of the kills, were during that phase. In a dogfight, there would be no contest because the P-51 could outmaneuver them. Because, of course, they had a higher speed, but they did have the maneuverability. So they wouldn't even try to dogfight. And then the third way would be if you're able to compensate for the speed differential. Well, I had 5,000 foot on them, so I let gravity and the power of my engine bring me up to his speed, and it was basically getting your aircraft up to that speed, and I almost hit compressibility as I was, which was approaching the speed south. When I came into him, the controls started acting up, and anyway, I got him, and then from there on, I started losing my advantage, and he disappeared into the clouds.
Okay. I'm going to ask Keegan from a performance standpoint. Okay, Max, additional, how much faster were they than the P-51?
Like you said, over 100 miles an hour faster. So, conditions and altitude have a lot to do with the performance you can drive out of the jet. One particular thing the German pilots were cautioned to look out for was getting into that maneuvering fight because the airframe couldn't withstand the stress. One of the significant loss factors for the 262 was actually over-G'ing the tail structure, trying to maneuver the airplane at high speed.
Okay, how about armament? You can see all four gun barrels up there. And I asked Keegan first. Okay, armament, what did it carry?
It's got the 4 high caliber cannons in the nose up there. They really were
30 millimeter, right? 30 millimeter cannons.
They're up there looking to, obviously destroy bombers in the bomber stream. So one thing Joe was telling us about a moment ago was that they would porpoise above the bomber stream. They'd come in and hit one, and come back up, regain the advantage, come back in and hit another.
Yeah.
Yep. And truly speaking, I talked to Joe earlier. He said, hey, the guy Walter, who was flying his airplane, or that he shot down, really didn't know Joe was even there. He said he was concentrating more on shooting down that B-17 than anything else. And so he used his 5,000 foot advantage, unloaded, gained the speed, took a shot, and then away you went.
Yeah.
So yeah. And as it turned out also, and we'll follow on to this part of the story, you're kind of going, how do you know who he shot down? And I'll let you continue with that. The guy's name was Walter Shook, and go ahead, Joe.
Well, the pilot of the 262 was Overlieutenant Walter Shook. Knight's Cross on the Iron Cross with palms. He had 206 aerial victories confirmed, 198 in the ME-109 and 8 in the ME-262. In fact, on the day he checked out in the ME-262, he was there in Berlin. He was directed to a flight of P-51s, and he shot down 2 P-51s on the day he checked out. So he was a tremendous pilot. And
how did you determine that was really the guy?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all you know is you watch this guy go into the clouds, and you said,
well, I saw him go into the clouds. He was burning, but I didn't know what happened to him. So I just went out, and my claim to fame was shooting up a bunch of aircraft and raising the havoc at Chetwynd, the airfield. And I never really put a claim in. And then I go through my career and end up going to Korea and Vietnam and spending 36 years in the service. And I retire in Colorado Springs. And in 1996, I get a letter from Germany from a Werner Dietrich, who was a 13-year-old boy when I bailed out over Berg, and he was in the ditches in Berg watching the air battles go on. And he saw me come over. He saw me that FW-190 make a pass at me. He saw me bail out. He saw where the aircraft hit, so on. And Berg was in East Germany, and he became a amateur historian and war buff. And when Germany, East Germany reunited, the TV stations were recovering aircraft and making specials out of them. And he talked to him and he said, I know exactly where this aircraft. So he went. Anyway, they went and made a special about picking up this P-51. And then it was Werner said he was going to find the pilot. So for a year he was looking for the pilot. Could never find him. He finally got a lead from the 20th Fighter Group that probably was me, and so he wrote a letter, and they recovered the aircraft, and he wrote a letter and asked, and I said yes, everything jives. That's probably my aircraft. So the whole TV crew come back over to the States, and we're talking, and of course. Werner thinks that I was in the battle over Magdeburg. He didn't know I was. And I told him about the jet encounter. He said when he goes back to Germany, he's going to find a jet pilot. And he goes back, and a month later, he comes back, he says it was Walter Shook. Well, we decided to take that, probably maybe 50-50 or shot him down. Anyway, several years go by, and in 2002, Walter's biographer was contacted me and asked me some information about the first mission. I wrote back and he took the information, and about 2 days later he came back and said 100% sure you're the one that shot down Walter Shook. He said that they've been looking ever since the war ended to find out who shot down Walter Shook, and nobody matched the thing. Well, I never claimed, so they never even knew that I encountered him. And so anyway, he came back to 100% sure. I said, how do you know you're 100% sure? He said, well, you, in your narrative, saying you saw this 262 shot down 2 B-17s in a row. At that mission, Walter was the only one. In fact, Walter shot down 4 B-17s in a row. He shot down 2 in a box before he came over to our box, and I saw the 2. And So Walter knows I shot him down, and I know I shot him down. And that's enough for both of us. So that's how it came about.
All right, but then let's continue. From what I understand, he became a close friend of you and your family. Is that right?
Yes. In 2005, Walter was coming to a visit. His buddy from the Luftwaffe, they flew together at Samo in northern Finland against the Russians. And they wanted me to come out and meet him. And I was retired in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I decided to go ahead one of the reasons they wanted to be, because they had done a poster of me shooting down, and they wanted us to sign it, that sort of thing. So I went out and I met him on the 18th of May of 2005 at the Old Pilots Club at the Whitney's restaurant.
I guess you qualified, huh?
Yeah, we were both qualified. I often said to Walter, I said, hey, when we were young and full of piss and vinegar, we were going to live forever. And he said, I'm afraid we aren't going to. So, anyway. Walter and I became close friends, and we did many shows together. And I went to Germany several times, and he would be to the States, and we would sit together and sign books. And
well, he claimed that you saved his life. Is that?
Oh,
right?
yeah. And when we were at the air shows, he'd always tell the people, he said, he called me Joey. He said, this is Joey. And I saved his life because had he not sprained his legs when he bailed out, if I had not shot him down, he would have been flying the next day, and he certainly would have been killed either the next day or the next, because we had not only air superiority, we had air supremacy. In fact, the day of the mission, the 10th of April of 45, there were some 50 some odd 262s in the air, and most of them were shot. Were shot down on that mission. They put up the whole force of the ME-262s, and it was a bad day for them.
It was. We talked earlier, and he said, we became friends, and we had the same outlook. He said, what? He said,
oh yeah,
I was doing.
We had people that asked, well, how come you guys are friends? You're enemies. You're fighting in the air. I'd say, well, my job was to escort the bombers, protect them from the Luftwaffe, and get them to their target so they could bomb them. And I did my job. And Walter's job was to protect the homeland, and that's what he did. And we both feel that we both did our jobs, and we did them pretty damn good. And that's the way, that was our attitude.
I think that's called chivalry in the old days. I think that's chivalry right there. All right, let's go back now. Okay, you hit the ground after one swing in the parachute and you get captured. Okay, yeah. You end up in a stalag. But then you managed to go under the fence, as you said.
Yeah.
You escaped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I ended up at a couple of pre-POW camps. The last one was the Luckenwalde, Stalag 3, which was a Russian POW camp. It was all Russians, and then we escaped. Of course, the Russians were fighting in Berlin, and Luckenwalde is a suburb of Berlin. And so there were 5 of us that escaped together. 2 were sergeants from B-17s that were shot down. Another was Lieutenant Stewart. Another was Captain Tracy, both shot down straight from the airfield, and then myself. So the 5 of us, we took off towards Berlin. And as we were going to Berlin, we ran into a Russian tank unit headed west, and we were able to join them, and we fought with them through the Battle of Jitterbug up through along the Rhine up to, along the Elbe up to Wittenberg on the Elbe, where I was retrieved and brought back under U.S. control and ended up in Paris and then redistribution camp and then home.
Understand. All right, I'm going to give you a break for a second. Talk to Keegan a little bit about the airplane. And I got to get this right. Connie was going to harass me. A reproduction or a replica? Okay. This is really not. I mean, it was, and I'll let Keegan talk to you about it. But I mean, it's the right size, the right shape. Engines are a little bit different. But go ahead, Keegan.
So it is either or both. It is a replica technically.
And what's it called? I called it a swallow, and I've seen it called a swallow. He says, "Oh no, don't say that."
Well, we'll hit on that in a minute. That's
Okay.
The subject of hot debate for everyone. What was the airplane actually nicknamed by the pilots that flew it versus what the Luftwaffe had on its government paperwork?
But where did this airplane come from?
So this airplane is part of the batch of 5 aircraft that were built off of Vera, the aircraft that was recovered by Watson's Wizards that's now on display at the Naval Aviation Museum, Pensacola, Florida. You may remember there was a project that kickstarted early in the 1990s to basically build an airplane off of that original that had been recovered from the Navy facilities at Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. And as often happens with these things, this discussion became, if we could duplicate the parts of this as we restored it, why couldn't we do that 5 times and then have 5 of these airplanes out flying in the world? And so that project was originally begun in Fort Worth, Texas. Ultimately, it kind of descended into some lawsuits and things like that. But the airplane fuselages will travel to Legend Flyers of Everett, Washington, just north of Seattle, where Bob Hammer, a retired Boeing engineer, will take up the torch and kind of bear the challenge of trying to get these airplanes finished and out flying. So rather notably, the Collins Foundation here in the United States has an operating example. We had ours operating some years ago, in almost a decade that it was stored and non-flying. But there is also one in Germany with the Messerschmitt Foundation. They fly it as part of the history of their company. So the project was really oriented around getting flying examples of these airplanes out there so that people could appreciate the tremendous technological leap that these airplanes represented. I don't know your personal experience on it, but a lot of Mustang pilots said it was like they were standing still when they would see these things just kind of blow past them. And that's a sensation that you do get from seeing these. And I think having them here together, reuniting them with people like you, that's why these airplanes were built, so that we could be here, be transported back in time. We're going to see it fly later today, and I think that's going to give everyone a chance to experience some small part of what you experienced back then.
How about engine-wise? From what I understand, that was something that was a tremendous problem way back when. The initial airplanes had big problems with the engines.
There were just as many holdups as there were lucky breaks in the development of the 262. It's fairly remarkable that under the pressures of what they were facing from the Allied strategic bombing campaign, that the Germans were able to develop this airplane, bring it out, and make it operational. But it had just a heck of a lot of teething problems. They couldn't nail the metallurgy for the engines. They didn't have the cobalt and the nickel that you needed to be able to heat treat all the components to be able to sustain the high temperatures inside the engines. So you had an approximate service life of 25 hours, maybe generously. But that depended entirely on whether or not the pilot surged the throttles. So experienced pilots would learn not to come onto the throttle too quickly, not to heat the engine up, not to create hot spots in it. So that's obviously, the big thing people know about the 262 was it was let down by its engines. In reality, it was let down by several other things as well. The Luftwaffe studied this issue and found that, sure, 33% of their losses were being driven by the engines, but 34% were being driven by the landing gear. So you saw in the video that the early examples were tail dragger airplanes. They had some problems with getting the aircraft off the ground. At about 120 knots, you had to kick the brakes to raise the tail up to get the airplane off the runway. But they switched to this tricycle gear configuration that wasn't common at the time, and that led to a lot of problems there as well. So you had your 33% on the engines, 34% on the landing gear, and then the significant percentage of the balance was pulling the tail off in maneuvers. So it was an airplane very much ahead of its time, but it did have all of the kind of teething problems you would expect from that. We like to say around the office that it didn't change the course of the war, but it changed the course of history. And to see where this airplane fits into the story of America and to world history in general, see it as the birth of the modern age, and see that the airplane that looks the most like it in the wing and everything is going to be the F-86. And that's not accidental.
Yeah.
Okay, but to keep a guy like that safe and sound up there, what'd they do? What'd they put in these things?
It has CJ610s on it. It has old Learjet engines. And I think, Mike, at the start of your career, you flew behind some engines like this.
Yep, and Learjets.
Yeah. So they're much more reliable now, and engines are basically not an issue at all. So.
Well, I mean, they are on Saturday morning when you're trying to come to AirVenture, right? So, relatively speaking, not an issue. Let's knock on some wood here, but we had an oil pressure sensor give us some grief, and so I know that all of you guys have been up here asking us, when is it going to get here? And there was starting to be a little bit of a joke passed around that at Reading, it was just about to come out. It was just about to come out as the rainstorms kind of kept it inside, but. Then we did the same thing here. We had the maintenance challenge, and we said to everyone, it'll be here, and everyone was like, when? So,
all right, thanks. All right, I'm going to do a quick walk around with Mike here. He flew it in here. He's going to fly it out of here, and he's got probably more time in this airplane than anybody else at this point. So let's do a quick walk around. Joe, don't go anywhere. We got more stories that we want to hear from you. So we're going to walk around the airplane. And Mike, go ahead. Start stem to stern and talk a little bit about this thing.
Well, we'll start here. You're going to get in the airplane. The no convenience steps, handle, climb yourself up in and get in and open it, and walk around on the top. Slats, this was all great German engineering for back then, no computers or anything. These slats are operated by air, speed, 150 knots they kind of start up, and at 200 knots they're all the way up.
So they're just spring-loaded?
Nope, they're just
they just float.
They just float.
Wow, okay.
So there's nothing that controls them other than your airspeed. Engines here, as they said, CJ610s. I got the Jumo engine had a third the horsepower they used to, so it performs very well. It accelerates pretty well. This little thing here looks like a little knob. That's a little starter like your lawnmower. There's a little motor in there, a gasoline motor that they'd start first, which would start the Jumo engine, and that's how they got it running. The landing gear is actually the original type landing gear. It has the same type of actuators. A lot of new jets today have in their gear actuators have the down locks and the up locks inside the actuator. Well, these still did too back then. Gear is operated by an electric motor that runs a hydraulic motor pump. So it's hydraulically operated. The up locks are pressure. The lights are pressure. So it's kind of weird. It took a little get used to. You put the gear up, it goes all the way up. The lights come out. You still got two green lights. Like, is it up or is it down? But as soon as the pressure comes off of it, the green lights go out. If they don't go out, then there's something going on. But it took a little while to figure out. Okay, that's just the way it was back then, but it works. Let's see, we've got the guns are up here. Nose gear. This is kind of the weak link of the airplane. You don't tow with it, just steer it. If you noticed the video when they pulled it out, got a cable that goes on it, which kind of goes on a movable tow bar. So it's actually pulling by the mains and steering it, just to steer. You always put the locks on, ground locks before you move it, just because of some of what I was saying. The actuators can't trust the locks. There's no pressure on them, so you want to make sure that they can't fold. Let's see what else we got.
How about the cockpit? Pretty roomy? You got a lot of space in there? Is it pretty
After
tight?
you're in there, it's not too bad. I say the hardest thing about flying is is getting strapped in, getting everything on. It's kind of hard to reach it all. But after you're in, it's actually pretty nice. As far as jets go, it's a pretty simple system set up. There's not a lot of fancy things on the airplane. It doesn't, when you start it, you actually have to stop the start sequence when it gets to a certain speed. It doesn't do it automatically like like the Learjets did. So it's a little more manual and pretty basic.
How about approach speeds and stuff like that?
We'll start with takeoff.
Okay.
And it's sitting at idle, you have half power all the time. It's 52%. So it's kind of wanting to move, it's wanting to go, which I'll get to later about what our long-term problem was with that. But bring it up to, it says 94, I go a little more. I like to get it moving. At 100 knots, you rotate, and it just nicely rotates, and it starts to accelerate pretty well. VMC is 135. It gets to that pretty quick, so you don't have to worry too much about it. There's some test flying I did with it. Below VMC, with the engine out, it doesn't really want to roll like they say it will. It has very good aileron authority, so it kind of just wants to turn. If you got room to roam, it'll go and it'll accelerate out of it. So you're climbing out, it quickly goes to 250 knots. The bad thing with this is you have 3,000 pounds of fuel, and on takeoff it's burning 4,000 pounds an hour. So you want to get it kind of pulled back. You only have maybe an hour. You want to be on the ground, going somewhere. That's why it took so many stops for anybody that was watching. It gets there fast, but it doesn't go far. So,
How about single engine? If you lost a motor,
it
does okay?
Yeah, it does fine. This thing really flies like any modern jet airplane. There's no quirks about how it flies compared to a modern day jet. It sets your ref speed just like you would in a modern day jet based on your weight, and that's about 120 in here, and just fly down. Now, when you touch down, remember at idle, you're still running over 50% power. So it doesn't want to slow down. So you have to have brakes. You have to have good brakes. And that was the issue we've had, finding good brakes for 10 years, trying to get something that will work. Because when we first started flying it, sadly, when you line up on runway to take off, the thing on your mind was, can I stop when I get back? and you steer it by differential braking. It doesn't steer on its own. So it's just as bad if you only lose one brake, you're going off the side. So that was what was always on your mind. Now it isn't. I don't know if Ike is here, but
Yeah, if Mike and Allison are
Yeah.
here, can we get
Yeah.
you to wave your hand or something?
Is Ike here?
So we should probably say that
Yeah.
the work that was done to get the airplane back
Yeah.
flying was done by Ike and Allison. They've become great members of our team. Ike Birchnell of Paris, Texas. There's no project that they aren't, I'd say, crazy enough to undertake. So we called them up and just said, we've got these problems with the airplane. We've done the engineering to resolve the challenge of how we think we think we can get a functional brake, but how do we get it on there and get it on there in time for Oshkosh? And they said, well, we'll just move into the hangar and live there until it's done, if that's all right with you. So they brought their 3 Bostons, which were core members of the maintenance team.
Yeah.
But we gave a round of applause for them. They're
Yeah,
right
it
there.
wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
I gotta say thank you, Brad.
Every airplane needs
Thank
a
you
good
for work.
mechanic. Every airplane needs a good mechanic.
Yeah, right.
So I honestly go fly it now, and I don't even think
great.
about having whether I can stop or not. Brakes are really, really good. Probably even better than they need to be, if that's possible. But yeah, it's excellent now. Now it's just a nice flying airplane. You can feel like you go fly it comfortably and not worry about it, other than running out of gas, because it uses it really fast. The thing about these engines is they burn a lot of fuel, but in the Learjets and all, they were only fuel efficient up to 40,000 feet in that range. And they were only burning the same there at cruise speed as they were idling down here. So we're only VFR. We can't go over like 17,000. They're not very fuel efficient there. So you get a day where you can only go 3,000-4,000 feet. You're really sucking it up. You're not going to go far, but it is what it is.
All right, thank you. I want to get another Joe Peterburs story here, but I want to say thanks to Mike Bench, and we say thanks to him for the P-51s that are here. And Connie, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. And before you wrap it up, I have something for Joe.
Okay, well, then I'm not done yet. He told me a funny story at the end when he got captured. Okay, and then he escaped from the Stalag, and when he escaped. It was primarily a Russian camp. But you had how many Americans there with you?
There were 5 of us.
Five altogether, okay, and then you heard that he bumped into the Russian. One of those Americans could speak Russian, so he talked to the Russian tank guy, and next thing you know, they're with the Russians, you know. But then he said he turned around. Go ahead, tell the story. What happened?
Well, after a couple of days, I'm looking around, and I was in a sort of a different section as the other 4, and look around, and I don't see the other guys. I was wondering what the hell's going on here. And what happened? I'm trying to get some information out of the Russians, and of course, communicate. I don't know if it was a communication problem or they just didn't want to tell me. But anyway, 60 years later, I find out from one of the guys that was with us that an American general came across to meet the Russians and meet this group, and in a helicopter, and he brought the other 4 guys back with him. And
so no man left behind.
I guess I'm the exception to the rule. No man left behind. But I spent the next 8-10 days, something like that, with the Russians by myself, and I was retrieved by an American Army patrol from the Russians, and the Russians were a little reluctant to let me go, and there was a little arguing between the master sergeant in charge of the patrol and the lieutenant in charge of the Russian thing, but they finally let me go, and I went with the Army group, and we patrolled around on the way back to Holly. Their base was in Holly, and from there I got tired of them, and I said, to hell, I'm going to take off, and started walking back. Now you got to remember, I'm a POW, and I beat this American. I'm back with Americans, the Army patrol of 4 guys, all enlisted, and I go back to Holly, which is the headquarters of the division, and nobody's seeing me. There's no officer around saying, hey, where are you from? Anything. Anyway, I spent a couple of days with them, and I got tired of them, and I said, I'm going. And I started walking west, and I got about 5 miles, and I run across the C-47 parked in a field, open field, and I'm walking up to it, and there's about 15 really emaciated souls there waiting, standing around, and they were facing me, walking dead, in striped suits. And we knew nothing about what was going on, about the Holocaust and about the politics of it all. And I walk up to the 2 pilots, the co-pilot of the C-47, and say, what's going on? He said, well, these are some political prisoners. They call them political prisoners. And so they didn't know about the Holocaust either. And we're bringing them back to Paris. I said, well, that sounds good. How about a ride? So I ended up in Paris with them. And of course, they didn't, I could not communicate with them. They were just in a state of shock. Tell them. I mean, it was really a horrible such a situation to be involved. Anyway, I got back to Paris and got stabbed and deloused, and now I'm under control of my wandering days.
Okay, Connie, go ahead. Before we open up for questions, it looks like you've got a microphone, so you got it.
Yeah, they made the mistake, gave me a microphone again. Joe, we'd like to say thank you again for being here. Thank you for this very large crowd. We have one of our members who is known for making these really nice chocks that go under the airplanes here. He made a very special one for you.
Oh,
And it's
that is good.
Josephine, the Mustang on that side. And then on, and that's Dave Jackson, who made the chock, honoring Joe Peterburs. So that is from Chaco, is his name.
Is Chaco here, by the way? Is Chaco?
Maybe here.
That'll keep me stopped, right?
That'll
It's a great
stop you
shot.
if you start rolling down a hill.
Right.
You know, Bree can put that under you.
Right.
We'll keep you from rolling.
Thank
So
you very
that's
much.
just a little memento from Warbirds
Thank you very
from
much.
Chaco.
All right, we're not done yet. We got questions, and then afterwards, as you might expect, Joe has written a book, and the books are back there in Warbirds merchandise. And after the show, he'll be back there to sign the books. So, so if you want a really interesting book, I got to say, when I picked it up, I didn't put it down. It's one of these where you go, huh? 20 years old, you know, shot down, or shoot an airplane down, gets shot down, a prisoner of war, escapes, and then 36 years later, he retires from our service. So, so with that, I'm going to open it up to questions right now, and say,
Okay, I'm on again. This is Chaco.
Oh, here's Chaco.
This is Chaco. This is the gentleman who made that chop. So
Oh,
thank you,
wow.
Chaco.
Thank you very much. Really great. Thank you.
thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, you got it.
All right, Mike, can I have the mic now? Okay.
You guys all feel like you're in the family with us too.
Yeah. Okay, we've got, Kyle is pointing over this direction.
I'm gonna go first. I have the mic right here, so I'm gonna go first.
Yes, please.
And I don't really have a question, more of a statement. I'm Sabrina. I'm Joe's granddaughter. This is Hannah, his great-granddaughter. Thank you. And Joe is from Wisconsin. Joe, this is his home state, Wisconsin. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot of family here. Can I get his family to stand? Everybody in his family, please stand. This is a surprise for Papa Joe. And then we have some great friends here. I just really want to say thank you to Connie and Kyle and everyone here at AirVenture and Warbirds in Review. And Mike, turn around. I've already cried my eyes out. Josephine was not on that aircraft yesterday when we saw it. And so for you guys to put that on there, Josephina's grandma, I just want to say thank you so much for making this so special for us. Grandpa, don't cry. Thank you so much for making this so special. And the ME262 Keegan, I mean, this is amazing to have this at this stage of life for him. A lot of great things have been done for him, but this right here, it takes the cake. And we know you because of Bud Anderson, and we just wanted to say that at Papa Joe's 100th birthday, we gave out little bottles of Old Crow in memory of Bud. So we love you. We can't say enough about this. We just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I love you, Papa Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Just to say, from our end, it's been an incredible pleasure, an honor to bring the airplane up here and to have it here for you to enjoy. When Connie told us that they were trying to work on getting you up here, that's what pushed us over the edge on making the decision to get the airplane back in the air, because we just, all of us, don't know how many more opportunities we're really going to have to do this, and it'd be a crying shame for it to sit for even 2 more years in the hangar, not come up here and bring it up here to be here with your airplane, with you.
Thank you, Keegan.
Okay, I'm gonna give Mike a, we're going a little off script, and we have a script, this is off script. Mike, it was an incredible tribute to Joe for you to put Josephine on that airplane just last night.
Yeah, it was a little thing that we had planned as a surprise, and we judged yesterday afternoon, and right before we put the canopy cover on, we decided to slap Josephine on there. But yeah, we're really excited to be here. My hat's off to all this. And the owner of Mark and Missy Timken, who couldn't be here. Very excited to showcase the airplane here at Oshkosh for you, Joe. And we're real excited here at Midwest Aero to be able to present the airplane. It's a fresh restoration, as you might be able to tell. It's got a little less than 10 hours on it, and we're really excited to be here. And thank you for being a big part of this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, now we can open up to some questions. So I see one over there in the corner. Yes, sir. Uh-oh.
Hello, test.
There
There we go.
Yep, you're good.
Just curious about the engines. You spoke about the engines that are in it now. I'm just comparing those to the Juno engines that were in there, thrust and fuel consumption. Do you have any comparisons on that?
I don't know what the exact fuel consumption was on the Juno, but they could only fly 60 to 90 minutes as well. This will probably fly 90 minutes, but I won't be doing that. I've flown a little over an hour. We're going to upgrade it a little bit. This is a little bit rudimentary type of, so it's pretty basic. The fuel gauges in here aren't very good. It has 4 tanks. One tank up here runs the left engine, and then there's a combination of 3 that run the right engine. And you have to move fuel from the second tank to the third tank. And the fourth tank flows into the third tank, then it goes to the right. So there's going to be a test. And, but you got fuel flow gauges, and they just stay way up there. That's all you just try to. I'm still learning it myself because even though we had it before, we never really took it anywhere. So this is really the first big trip, other than going to Reading, to really kind of experiment to see whether you climb fast and go straight like we did in the Learjets, and then stay up there and pull it to idle and come down. Or if you're going to go low, you just pull it back and you take off. But anyway, you're burning 1,500 pounds to 2,000 pounds an hour, depending on your altitude and cruise. And like I said, you only have 3,000 pounds of fuel. You're burning 4,000 pounds an hour on takeoff and the initial climb. So it's all still a guessing game. As soon as we get a good fuel flow system in there and a fuel management system, so we know what we got, how far we can go, we're probably stopping sooner than I would probably need to, which is better than not stopping. I should have, but so anyway, does that answer your question?
All right. Where else?
Quick question. You said the third of what?
Where are we looking here? Mary's? Okay, go ahead over on this side.
You said one of the third of problems was the tail. Did you reinforce it in this model, or is it built like the original?
It's built like the original, but it's not flown like the original.